Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Danielle. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all having a great Thursday when you're listening to this, or a Friday, whenever you're listening to this. It is currently Wednesday morning for me. I'm still in my parents' home. I'm still in my childhood bedroom. Feels like I will be here for the rest of my life at this point, it feels like, but as I said last week, I hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy and happy, and I am so excited to be here with you guys today. How is everyone's Thursday going? My past week, I'll give you guys a little brief update before we get into all the college football talk, has been kind of crazy. We got a new dog, which is something that's very exciting for us. We have 5 Siberian Huskies now. They're the loves of my life, but we recently rescued another one, so we've been training her, acclimating her to the family and everything. We have 4 females and 1 male, so if you are familiar with dog training or anything, then you know it is a little bit of a hassle. But yeah, let's get on into it today. We have a very exciting show for you all. We're going to be looking at the coronavirus updates and how it is affecting sports in general. Then we will look at the we will be looking at the quarterbacks competing for the Heisman, kind of giving my top 5 Heisman list. And then let's go into some dark horse contenders for each conference title. We're going to look at the 5 big conferences, the Pac-12, the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. We're going to look at those. And we always know who the projected favorites are, but let's look at some dark horses. And then, rounding it off for our top 10 list this show, we have top 10 college football mascots, a very popular debate among my friends, among internet heads, I guess. So let's get on into it with a coronavirus update. So last week, we touched upon spring football. We touched upon conference-only play. How do you guys feel about that? I guess the show went out Monday, so on Monday, that went out, and has much changed since then? I guess. I don't really know. I feel like a lot has changed in the sports world in general because NBA comes back today when you're listening to this. Tomorrow for me as I record this. Baseball is back. And that has a lot of controversy in and of itself. This is a college football podcast, but we have to relate this back to how other sports are dealing with this because, as you all know, college football is on the brinks. This is not old news. I feel like ever since the coronavirus outbreak happened in March. Do you ever think about that, kind of how your view was on the world in March? I was much more optimistic than I am now. I'll put it that way. But it's on the brinks. I mean, we don't even know if it's coming back. We don't know what's happening. Players are practicing. Teams are together. But who knows? So let's look at the Miami Marlins outbreak in the MLB that is dominating the sports world conversation right now. So 14 players and multiple members of their staff tested positive for COVID-19. What does this mean? So they were playing in Philly, and basically there was an outbreak. And because of that, multiple games have had to be canceled with the Yankees and the Phillies to make sure those teams don't get infected. But yes, there was a news report that came out yesterday that no other players have tested positive, which is good. But what does this mean? It means that it's hard to keep track of players outside of a bubble. MLB is not really in a bubble right now, per se. The strategy they had was very rushed. And the NBA strategy might be a little better if we're looking at college football and how they want to handle all this. So let's get on to that. A bubble. How would that work in college football? We touched on it in the playoffs last week, where they play at one stadium, like in the Dallas or the Rose Bowl. This would be for the playoffs, the college football playoffs, not all the bowl games. Bowl games are a whole other discussion we can get into in later weeks about how would we do bowl games and if coronavirus is still around in that time. But for the season. So for the season, we would need to find one central stadium for each conference. This is also assuming that every conference goes with the conference-only play. So far, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are the only teams that have confirmed they're doing conference-only play. So what about the three other conferences, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12? Well, y'all, let's get into this. A bubble concept for college football does seem a little bit out of the ordinary, I have to say. But then again, everything is out of the ordinary right now. We can't predict anything. So, for the season, we would need to find one central stadium for each conference. So, I've outlined some potentials. So, for the Pac-12, we could do the Rose Bowl, but we have to take into account California's COVID numbers, how that would play in, because we are in the middle of a health pandemic, and yeah. Or Oregon Ducks, far away, easier to bubble. ACC, Clemson, these are all hypotheticals, by the way. These are all, I mean, it would have to be up to the government and the state town, everything. But this is from a college football perspective. SEC, I have in my outline, honestly, the South's not the safest area right now. South is not the safest area. We could do Georgia, UGA, Big 10, Ohio State or Michigan, Big 12, Texas, Oklahoma. Those are just predictions, kind of things we could wonder about for the fall, where they could go. But yes. So, teams would come and quarantine 2 weeks before practice starts, which would essentially mean they'd have to quarantine like right now if the season wants to start. But there have been talks about the season being pushed back, which we will get into. So they come in quarantine for 2 weeks before practice begins. How would they play all the games? If there's one stadium for for a conference, how would they play all the games? It would have to be a 6-day-a-week schedule, where every day there was new games, and you save the marquee games for Saturday. So that means that for the Pac-12, USC, Stanford plays on Saturday, whereas Utah, Colorado plays on a Wednesday. That seems weird to think about, I know. And then that would be weird. There's only like 5 marquee games on Saturday. What about all these other games? This is where you could have 2 stadiums maybe. But again, logistically, we have to look at the government and how they would agree to it. And yeah, so Sunday would be for NFL. There'd be no Sunday games, which has always been a concept in college football, I guess. We've never really had Sunday games except for at the beginning of the season. And no fans at games. This is a topic I touched on last week briefly, but I don't really think I gave my full opinion. Fans at games does not seem plausible right now, in my opinion. It seems very... aloof is not the right word. Why am I thinking of aloof? It does not seem realistic. Because you're looking at 20,000 people in the stadium, and of course, as you've heard, the governor of New York has banned fans at New York games, so that's for college. Syracuse will not have fans at their games. Texas has a limit on how many people can go to games. But you have to look at each team individually. Let's take into account Colorado, my alma mater. Was that my alma mater? I'm still a student there. They have not said anything about fans at games. I've talked to a handful of my friends who go to Colorado, some of the players on the teams, and they don't believe fans will be at games. But it all depends on the state, the city. You know, Boulder will have different regulations from Austin, Texas. But no fans at games seems like the most realistic option we can have to play as safe of a college football game this season as possible. And I know it sounds weird, and I feel like I just keep reiterating how weird this all is to me. I mean, oh gosh, it's a weird feeling. But again, we want college football to happen. I feel like that's like my motto for until the season actually starts, is we just want college football to happen. And yeah, it's going to be different. I was laying in bed last night thinking about how different everything is going to be this year. I mean, just no fans. It's just crazy to me. Anyways, as Big 12 Commissioner Bob Boswell told ESPN, we watch everything that's going on around us, and I think we always said if we are able to go forward and play sports throughout the year, there will be disruptions. I think this is a good example of that. And Mr. Bosby, sorry, I completely mispronounced his name. I'm so sorry. He's correct. I mean, there are going to be disruptions this year. They've already talked about putting in bye weeks. They've already talked about all these precautions they're going to take in case there's an outbreak at a school or a coaching staff has an outbreak. I mean, there's going to be disruptions. We're looking at that with all sports. I mean, the NBA is finishing their season in September now. MLB, there have been talks about canceling the season already after the Miami Marlins breakout. That's just how we're living in a world. And as Jim Harbaugh said last week, as I told you guys, Jim Harbaugh said that we have to live with this now and we have to accept the reality that life is not going to be normal. And so let's look at what some of the guidelines the NCAA has listed out. They recommend testing athletes and coaches every 72 hours before games, but the Power 5 conferences are expected to have their own guidelines and testing procedures. This is from a report by ESPN. So testing is quite possibly the biggest question. I mean, you can talk to literally anyone. Testing is definitely more readily available than it was a few months ago, but still, it is not something that comes by. And, I mean, getting these players tested every 72 hours or every 48 hours or 24 hours, however many hours the Power 5 conferences decide, definitely going to be, there's going to be some controversy around that. I think there's no way around that. I think it's very realistic for people to be like, well, why am I not able to get a test, but these college football players are able to get a test? I mean, there's definitely going to be those questions around that. I mean, there's questions around that with the NFL. And how many positive tests are too many before they cancel games? So say, let's go back to Colorado. Another example. Let's say our backup quarterback, and a third-string running back, they all test positive. Well, is that going to cause an outbreak? I mean, you could assume other players are testing positive as well. So how many players are on the coaching staff? Is it too many before we have to cancel games? And so schools will have to quarantine players 10 to 14 days. But, I mean, there's other chances of an outbreak still happening. I mean, it's going to differ from school to school. How much can we control? At the end of the day, how much can we control the players when they go to class, when they walk to get food? I mean, we are talking about, if we want this bubble strategy to work, literally isolating them in a dorm room or their apartment, wherever they're living. I assume that if they're doing a bubble strategy, they will have their own housing, and literally only leaving that to go to practice. All their classes could be online. I know that's how many schools are right now. And at the end of the day, though, that we have to put strict regulations on our athletes if we want to control them. You look at the NBA. I mean, they leave their bubble for like 2 seconds to get some wings or whatever, like what happened to Lou Williams, and they get quarantined and they get punished. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to be very strict on these regulations that we have for these athletes. It's going to differ from school to school to school. I think that is the main thing here. Whew. So, let's get back into conference-only play. Let's go over this again, you guys. So, as of recently, it came out that the Pac-12 is pushing their season back to September 19th, playing 10 games and opting in bye weeks in case games get canceled. So, what does that mean? Pac-12 and Big Ten are doing conference-only play. ACC, Big 12, and SEC weighing their options. SEC and ACC only play 8 conference games, whereas other conferences play 9. So the latter 3 conferences are looking at ways to play conference-only, but allowing for some of their big non-conference games, like LSU versus Texas, Auburn, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee. They all want that to happen because there's so much monetary value, and there's, for competitive advantage for teams like LSU and Texas and Oklahoma and Auburn, who are viably going to be fighting for a spot in the playoffs, there's so much competitive advantage that can come from playing a non-conference game. And the monetary value, again, college football is a monetary product. We have to look at that. It is a huge source of revenue. A win versus LSU for Texas could push them into the conversation for the playoffs, something they want. But if the season starts on time, which is August 29th, the odds of games getting pushed back and canceled are very big. I mean, there's no way around that. I think games are probably going to get canceled on their own, which It's kind of scary to think about. I mean, I can just look at Colorado, for example. I hate that I keep using this. I mean, honestly, probably not many people listening to this care about Colorado, but I do. And I just know some of our games are going to get canceled. We are not going to have a lot of our games, and that sucks. I mean, you can look at the travel implications. This would go back to, do we have a bubble? So many questions. I mean, how would we travel? So, as Big Ten Commissioner Bob Boz, I am so bad with last names, you guys. Oh my gosh, I really need to work on this. Told ESPN earlier this month, I've always considered it a viable option. Okay, this goes back to spring football. I forgot to preface that. So as the commissioner said, I've always considered it a viable option, but certainly not first choice and probably not second choice either. I think it would be a really big leap to say, okay, we're going to shut it down in the fall and move it all to the spring because there isn't a whole lot of certainty in the spring either. Having said that, I don't consider it an infeasible option. I just wouldn't call it first choice. So what the Big 12 commissioner is basically saying is that we want fall football. It's a tradition unlike any other. It's the monetary value again. And a spring season just feels weird. I talked about this last episode. I feel like I'm just reiterating how weird this all is. But I wish you guys could see the hand motions I'm doing right now as well. But yeah, so as he is saying, spring football is an option, but we want fall football. And we don't know if it's going to be safer to play now versus January. I mean, there's been talks about a second outbreak going on. We have to listen to health professionals. We could all be back in a stay-at-home order in January. Who knows? So, what can happen? Well, if cases rise and states go back into stay-at-home orders, who knows? Gosh, I want college football to happen. I mean, it just feels right, you know? Like, just, oh, gosh. I'm so sorry my water bottle is squeaking over there if you guys can hear it. But let's run over everything I just talked about. So I think the main thing, I touched on my bubble strategy I thought of. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that suggests a bubble strategy for college football. But it's just, how would it work with all these players? I mean, we would also be taking these kids away from school. If everyone is playing at the Rose Bowl, well, then UCLA is the only one that still has school. And these are college athletes. They are students first, athletes second. Well, that's debatable. But so we have the Rose Bowl, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State or Michigan, Texas or Oklahoma. These are places that we could realistically have teams, like bubble there and everything. And I mean, that could be a big economic boost for the fellow cities. Athens. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the town that Oklahoma is in. It's not Boomer. No. I'm so sorry. This is really embarrassing. Austin, Ann Arbor, etc. But, I mean, we have to look at all options. We have to think about the fact that teams could, some teams could opt out to play. I mean, we haven't heard anything about any big conference teams opting out to play yet, but that could happen. I'm not saying that it will, but it definitely could, depending on state regulations and the school. The odds of that I feel are very low, but yeah. And we also have to look at the testing. I think the testing is a huge thing. I think that is something that we have to evaluate and consider, especially because, I mean, testing is not an easy thing to come by. It's very hard to get in some areas. And so is it fair that we would be giving all these athletes testing every 48 to 72 hours, but many people cannot get regular tests? We have to think about that and how the public would react to that. But I also forgot to mention that Michigan State just had to have its entire team quarantine or self-isolate after a second member of the staff tested positive. If this happened during the season, that could cost a team 2 to 3 games, which monetarily is something that I don't think many people can afford to do or live with. I mean, that could cost a big game like LSU, Texas, or Oklahoma, Tennessee. That could cost a small game. Nothing's really a small game. Nothing is a given in college football. We're talking about this. Whew, guys. I'm still getting used to this whole talking thing for 20 minutes straight. But thank you guys for listening to my little COVID-19 updates, I guess. And coming up, we are going to look at some Heisman contenders. So here I'm going to go over 2 of my 5 Heisman contenders. I talked about quarterbacks, but there's a surprise twist in there as well. So I'm going to evaluate 2 today and 3 on Monday, so stick around.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hello, everybody. We are back. I hope you all enjoyed that little commercial break we had. Let's get on into our next segment. So, as I teased at the top, we are going to be talking about Heisman contenders. Ooh, gotta get a big stretch in here before we get going. So, let's look back at who won the last few years. Also, I want to know, tell us on our social media, who is your favorite Heisman winner? Like, I'm not talking like the classics like Johnny Manziel, like a random Heisman winner that no one talks about really that you just love. And I feel like it's kind of underrated to talk about Heisman winners. Not underrated, I feel like not, what am I saying? It's not underrated to talk about Heisman winners because they're obviously Heisman winners for a reason. But yes, let's get on into it. Who won the last few years? Joe Burrow from LSU, Kyler Murray from Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma, Lamar Jackson from Louisville, and Derrick Henry from Alabama. He was the last non-quarterback to win. He was a running back, as you guys may know. Now he dominates the NFL and my fantasy team. But, yes, I digress. Heisman is for the best college football player, but recently it feels like it's turned into a best QB competition, which is okay. I think that it's up to the digression of the committee and like the people who vote, but yeah, so last week Joe Burrow is now in the NFL, and same with all the other ones. They're all dominating the NFL. So let's get into my top 5 Heisman contenders for this year. And I just want to say, this is my opinion only. Like, debate me. I would love to debate you on this. Whew. So we have Trevor Lawrence from Clemson. I think everyone and their mother knows about Trevor Lawrence and who he is, who just got engaged, by the way. Congratulations to him. I saw the photos on Instagram. We have Justin Fields from Ohio State. Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma, who I touched on last week, in fact. Or last episode. I keep saying last week. It was last episode. We have Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger. I think that's how you say it. I wish I could, like, look up how to pronounce it. And then we have Travis Etienne. Etienne, I think that's how you say that. And he is a Clemson running back. So we have a running back on the board, you guys. And obviously I'm going to get hate. Where's defensive players? We're the tight ends. We're the fullbacks. If you guys want, I can do a top 5 Heisman contenders for the defensive side. But these are the ones that come to mind. These are based on the game tape and the studies I've done. These are the best fits. So I'm going to evaluate 2 today and 3 on Monday's episode. So stick around for that if you are invested in this like I am. Whew. So let's look at Trevor Lawrence. I think everyone and their mother knows about Trevor Lawrence. My mom, who is not the biggest college football fan, she's a fan of her teams, Stanford, Boulder she roots for Alabama. Those are about the teams she knows about, and she's very service level. You know, she'll often ask me, what does a tight end do? All this stuff. She's very knowledgeable with football, but sometimes she isn't very caught up on like in-depth college football. She actually listened to last she listened to Monday's episode, and she was like, wow, I know nothing about college football. And I was like, it's okay, mother. Neither do I, it feels like sometimes. But she knows about Trevor Lawrence, and she likes Trevor Lawrence. She says he's a little cute boy. And let's look at him in general. I wish I could, like, put a picture of him. I'm, like, looking at pictures of him on Google Images right now. I just, like, want to give him a hug. He looks so adorable. Sorry, I'm laughing at how dorky I am. Let's get on into it. So at 6'6" and 215 pounds, he was the ACC Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2018. He had a 65.8% passer accuracy in 2019. He's poised to maintain this or improve. He was 65.3 in 2018, so he improved by 0.5%. He's a dual threat quarterback. I feel like we see this so often now, but it rarely actually translates. I feel like to be a successful quarterback nowadays, you have to be dual threat. You have to move your legs and run. I mean, that's just how it is. Many quarterbacks nowadays are also runners. We can look at the success of Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, the ones that come to mind. He's quick on his feet, reads defenses with great accuracy, and he's a deep pocket passer as well. Let's evaluate those last 2 points I just made. He reads defenses really well. This is so important because, as you have seen in the past at the college football playoffs, he's played some relatively good defenses, and he has lit them up. Never forget the Alabama game, people. He's quick on his feet. I think that this is often underrated when it comes to being a dual threat quarterback. I think when you think of dual threat, I feel like in my mind, I associate that with good runner. I mean, you have to be quick on your feet, but when I think of dual threat, I always feel like they have one strength that outweighs the other strength more. I mean, if you want to look at it, like, never mind. Whew. But he's quick on his feet, reads defense with great accuracy, and he's a deep pocket passer, so he's both to his advantage. He's also great on the run. He's a great deep pocket passer on the run, which is so important. And based on the team around him and success he's had, he's a front runner right now ahead of the season starting. I think based on his last 2 seasons, he is a true junior this year, which is crazy. I feel like I'm getting so old now where I'm older than some of these like star quarterbacks. Anyone ever feel like this? I don't know. But I mean, like we said, his running back is a Heisman contender as well. I got giddy watching some of the tape of him. I'm not going to lie. I was on YouTube yesterday doing a little of my research for this podcast, and I came across some game tape of his, and let me tell you, I got giddy. I got so excited. I got like the Christmas morning feel when you're just like, ooh, and you're just so excited for life and everything. And I was like a present. I was like, oh my gosh, because a lot of his tape, I don't remember. There's so much college football. And I went back and I was like, wow, like looking at the way he improves over the season in general is amazing to watch. Obviously last year with Joe Burrow was kind of the runaway winner. And then the year before was Kyler Murray. But this year could be Trevor Lawrence's year. So his biggest strengths, he evading defenders and using his feet. These are so crucial when it comes to good quarterback play. I think we often forget this. We don't talk about it enough, but it's very true. Now I'm going to read you off their schedule. Let's keep in mind that, okay. So, sorry guys, I had the schedule mixed up. They are playing Georgia Tech on September 3rd, Louisville on September 12th, Akron on September 19th, Virginia on September 26th, Boston College on October 2nd, Florida State on October 10th, NC State on October 17th, Syracuse on October 24th, Notre Dame on November 7th, Keitel, I'm so sorry, on November 14th, Wake Forest on November 21st, and South Carolina on November 28th. So we can look at those. No games have been canceled yet because of the ongoing pandemic, COVID-19 outbreak. Say what you will. So that's good news. But he has some key matchups against Florida State, Notre Dame, and Virginia. Do we see any upsets there? Obviously, nothing is a given in college football, as we've talked about, as my boss Andrew Tate has talked about on his podcast. But yeah. So I I see Trevor Lawrence not walking away with the Heisman. I think that I don't want to be one of those talking heads right now. I mean, like, I see Trevor Lawrence succeeding and winning the Heisman. Obviously, given this season is too, it could be a completely different Heisman race than what I'm discussing right now. He could get injured. We do not want that. We are not wishing that. I'm just laying out the facts. And so, no games have been canceled yet. And yeah, let's get on to our second contender. How do you feel about Trevor Lawrence now, though? Do you feel like he has a chance? Do you not? Let me know. Let me take a little breath there, everybody. We have Justin Fields. He transferred from Ohio State after playing behind Jake Fromm from Georgia. Jake Fromm is now a fifth-round draft. He was a fifth-round draft pick to the Buffalo Bills. I'm so sorry if you heard that. My Fitbit is being annoying right now. I recently got a Fitbit, and it's like, you need to walk right now, but I'm recording a podcast, so I'm not going to get up and walk around with a mic in my hand like a stand-up comedian or something. That would be weird now, wouldn't it? Sorry, I'm in a mood today. But let's get back to Justin Fields. So he transferred from Ohio State after playing behind Jake Fromm. He has a completion percentage of 67.2 in 2019. I'm going to read you his 2019 stats. He had completions percentage 67.2, over 3,200 yards. He averaged 9.2 yards. He had 41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His longest was 60 yards, and he had a rating of 181.4. So, yeah, how do we feel about that? I'm looking at his 2018 stats too, and he only threw for 328 yards, so those are not really comparable. But he was 9-0 in his conference and 13-1 overall. Ohio State dominated last year. So the pros, he looks like a complete package. He has great accuracy. I mean, I don't know how often I can say this. Accuracy is so important, you guys. He has high-level throws. He was 9-0 in conference play in 2018, 13-1 overall in his first starting season. And the Big Ten is no skate in the park. Skate in the park? Glide in the park? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's no walk in the park. That's the right term. I don't know why I was thinking of skate in the park. His cons. Why couldn't he beat out Jake Fromm? I mean, Jake Fromm was projected to be a first-round draft pick at the beginning of last season, but he was drafted in the 5th round by the Buffalo Bills, who already have a starting quarterback there. So, there's that question. I mean, what was wrong? Was the Georgia system not right for him? Jake Fromm was an established quarterback there. Lots of questions. And he didn't get a lot of reps this freshman season, which could be cause for concern, I feel like, if you're someone that cares about reps a lot. But Ohio State head coach Ryan Day is known for developing quarterbacks. He is known for being a QB whisperer, if they want to say. So, just like I did with Clemson, we're going to look at Ohio State's games. They've already had 3 games canceled, I want to say. They were supposed to play Bowling Green, University of Oregon, and Buffalo. Those have all been canceled. So we have Rutgers, Ohio State, Iowa, Michigan State. Oh, I should say the dates. We have Rutgers on September 26th, Iowa on October 10th, Michigan State on October 17th, Penn State on October 24th, Nebraska on October 31st. So we have a Halloween game, it looks like. We have Indiana on November 7th, Maryland on November 14th, Illinois on November 21st, and Michigan, the big rivalry game, on November 28th. So, right now, they're playing 10 games. They've had 3 canceled already, which is kind of sad. So what does that mean? I mean, I think Oregon was going to be a huge matchup for Justin Fields. I think that would have really shown who he was. Oregon's defense is expected to be ranked in the top 5 defenses this season. And, yeah, I think that would have been a great matchup. I mean, a dual-threat quarterback like Fields versus a very good run defense in the Oregon Ducks would have showcased his talent a lot, and it sucks that there's a pandemic and it had to be canceled. So one of the only conferences doing conference-only play. What does that mean for his chances? I think that you have to look at a lot of things. You have to look at how, for starters, I mean, the competition. They had their big game against Oregon canceled. I mean, is he going to, obviously Michigan, Penn State, Nebraska, those are going to be tough games. And even Michigan State, those are not going to be walk in the parks by any means. And it depends on how much Heisman voters evaluate non-conference play and strength of schedule. They definitely do not have a walk in the park. I feel like I keep saying that, but you have to look at then Trevor Lawrence, who has had none of his games canceled. And so far, I mean, I definitely think that Trevor Lawrence has a bit of an easier schedule ahead of him. Again, nothing is a given in college football, but you look at the Big Ten, Penn State and Michigan are always tough games, and Nebraska, Michigan State, those could be tough games as well. Iowa, so you definitely have to consider that. Oregon was going to be a big early showcase of the season as well. That was going to be their second game. That was really going to show us who Justin Fields was. He had an amazing first starting year at Ohio State, but could he bring it back? Could he do it all over again? And I guess we'll have to see. So they're big matchups. Penn State and Michigan. You guys want to know a little fun fact about me? Michigan was my dream school. That and Wisconsin were the two schools I wanted to go to so badly. And as a kid from Southern California, who the only cold I ever experienced was when I was a figure skater and I would be in the ice rink for hours on end, wanted to go to Wisconsin and Michigan, two of the coldest states. I don't know what I was thinking. Amazing schools, but Boulder is cold enough for me. Sorry, everybody. I had to take a sip of my water. But, yeah, so Michigan and Penn State, two big matchups. I feel like the Big Ten, there's less of a chance for upset. Is that the correct thing to say? No, there's more of a chance for upset, not less of a chance. Yeah, so Ohio State, Justin Fields versus Trevor Lawrence. Not really a bracket per se, but who do you have over those two? I've stated my cases. Let us know on our social media what you guys think as well. But I have to say that I would give the advantage right now to Trevor Lawrence just because of his 2 years of very consistent good play. He has not lost a single game yet as well, I have to say, which is kind of crazy to think about. I mean, he's been a starter for 2 years now. He's a true junior, which is also very unheard of in college football. Gosh, I'm older than him. That's weird. This feels weird. I remember I was talking to my mom about this, and she was like, just wait till, like, you're old enough to be their mother or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a weird feeling. But, yes, so Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, who do you have? Let us know. And do you have anyone else I'm kind of leaving off my list, I guess? Is there anyone that I'm forgetting? I obviously am very aware that this is quarterback heavy, and I never want it to just be about quarterbacks. Obviously, they are a key part of the game, and they are a huge talking point for the media and fans. But yes. So let's go over who I have in my contenders. And Spencer Rattler, Sam Ehlinger, and Travis Etienne are going to be discussed on Monday's episode. Stick around for that. Very Big Ten heavy, it looks like. ACC, Big 12, Big 10. Not Big 10 heavy, Big 12 heavy. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm losing my breath here. Whew. Gosh, it is also getting very hot in here, I have to say. But you guys don't care about that. So to review, I'm going to go over the strengths and weaknesses of each of these guys. And Trevor Lawrence, we have quick on his feet, reads defenses with great accuracy, deep pocket passer. We love that in a quarterback. We adore that in a quarterback, actually. The infrastructure there, we already know Dabo Swinney is a very proven head coach, obviously. Easier schedule. And his key matchups have not been canceled yet. Who knows about Notre Dame, though, because Notre Dame is not in a conference, and that goes back to conference-only play that we have talked about at great length here. What about Justin Fields? Completion percentage is almost at 70%. I mean, that's crazy to think about. He looks like a complete package. Great accuracy and high-level throws. But his cons, why couldn't he beat out Jake Fromm? I also want to say I'm sorry I don't have any cons for Trevor Lawrence. They were honestly a little hard to find. But didn't get a lot of reps this freshman season. Does not matter. He is now a redshirt junior, I believe. And I'm sorry if I'm that mistaken. Sorry, there's like sand on my computer. But yeah, their head coach is known for developing QBs, but he's had 3 of his big games canceled already, and that could hurt a quarterback who is in their second year starting. And, he's going to have a chance to go first in a first-round pick for the NFL draft. Also, with spring football, speaking of that, how did it affect the NFL draft? I will touch on that next week if you guys are interested. But Oregon, they're going to have, I'm really sad that's not going to happen, in all honesty. I think I've said this, but I'm going to be fully online for the fall semester. And so I was really looking forward to having my Saturdays for college football in my little apartment in California, because I will not be in my apartment in Boulder. Thanks, coronavirus. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so key matchups. And there we have it. I mean, those are 2 of my 5 Heisman contenders. What do you guys think? Let us know on our social media. I also want to say that I got the stats for Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence from ESPN's player profiles, as well as Heavy Sports, so thank you to them. And with that being said, coming up, I am going to give you guys my dark horse contenders for the Power 5 conferences and who will each win each one. You're definitely going to want to stick around for that, because I might have 1 or 2 that you guys are like, interesting. It was a little hard to come up with, but I hope you guys enjoy that, because I believe I made some very valuable points. So stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back, everybody. Did you enjoy that little break from my voice for like 3 seconds? I got a nice sip of water, and we're back. So, let me catch my breath. That was a very excited intro, I guess I could say. Okay, so we all know the top 5 power conferences: Pac-12, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC. I feel like they're just like engraved in my mind, especially by doing this podcast. Yeah, it's just fun to think about, like, when I was younger and I couldn't tell the difference between the ACC and the SEC, and now I'm like, boom! Like, it's amazing what knowledge does to you, am I right? Whew, I feel like I'm in a mood today. But let's get into our dark horse contenders. So I don't know if dark horse is necessarily like the right phrase for this necessarily, or if it's just unexpected winners. Is that the right thing to say? I really wish, I feel like I'm doing an impression of a guy who's like sitting by a fireplace, like reading a book to his children. I'm like, is that the right thing to say? The way I'm like moving my head and my shoulders and everything. Sorry for that little weird anecdote, but yeah, let's get into it. So, Big 12. Predicted winner is Ohio State. I think that is not a given, obviously, but I think that's just what everyone's been predicting, especially after their dominance in the past few years. And I don't blame them. Ohio State is stacked. We just went over their Heisman contending quarterback, Justin Fields. But my dark horse here is a good old Wisconsin Badgers. My dream school, a school I almost transferred to. Go Badgers. I still root for them to this day. I remember watching their game against Miami in like December of 2017, and I was like, oh, how does it feel to root for the school that rejected you? And I was like, well, funny you should ask. But no, I don't think it was Miami. I think it was Ohio State, because they rejected me too. And I was like, funny you ask. Not salty at all. So why Wisconsin? I don't think it's really dark horse per se, because according to ESPN Power Football Index, FPI, back in May, they are in the top 4 projected teams to make the playoffs, the college football playoffs, at 33.5%. But, big but there, everybody. Big but. They have a 33.1% chance to win the Big Ten Conference. They're projected to win their division. If you didn't know, there are different divisions within the conference. But I don't see this is so much the wild card dark horse as it is that Ohio State has dominated the conference recently. So I can see Ohio State upsetting them. I mean, Wisconsin upsetting them. I guess what I'm trying to say is, out of everyone I'm going to mention, I feel like this is not a given, but this is the most likely. So, let's look at their strengths. Wisconsin's strengths. They have the running back field. Garrett Goslick, who is a senior. Nakia Watson, who is a redshirt sophomore. Isaac last names. He's a redshirt sophomore. And Julius Davis. He is a sophomore as well. I got this all thanks to the statistic from Madison.com, their sports section. They have a strong offensive recruiting class. So they're definitely strong on the offensive side. Obviously, Wisconsin's known for their defense. They're known for being a run-heavy defensive team. That is their strengths. So their weakness is the offensive line has a lot of holes and question marks. Is that enough to upset Ohio State and overtake them in the conference? We will see. But what do you think? Do you think Wisconsin has a chance? I think they have a decent amount of chance, I have to say. I don't think it's a given. Nothing is a given in college football. So, with that being said, let's get on to the Pac-12. So, predicted for the Pac-12, we have the University of Oregon. We got the Oregon Ducks. I almost went to Oregon. I feel like, if you guys couldn't tell, I love football schools. This is a huge trend. You will notice that I applied to a majority of these schools I am mentioning on this podcast. University of Oregon, obviously we know they just lost Justin Herbert. They're projected to have the 52nd best offense in the nation, 5th best defense though. But a wild card here, people. And this one threw me for a loop. I was doing my research, doing my film watching, doing my little statistic stuff, as you do when you host a college football podcast. And I was like, USC, the University of Southern California, the team that has had tumultuous firings in the past. They've had some blunders recently. I see them being a wild card. I know. Crazy. I have been to quite a handful of USC games in my lifetime, being from Southern California. I used to date someone that was a diehard USC fan, and we went to a lot of USC games together. But besides the point, I'm saying that, I guess, because I've grown up knowing USC. I'm not necessarily a fan of them, but I do follow them pretty well because a lot of people from my town follow them. So again, not a wild card per se, because USC and Oregon are projected to have the most wins in their in the Pac-12. Oregon 10-2, 8-1 in the conference. USC 10-2, 8-1 in the conference. Same thing. But Oregon has dominated the Pac-12 for the last few years. That is the main trend you will notice in these predictions, is that who has dominated the past few years? Who has the continuity, the coaching staffs, the strengths? I mean, recruiting classes, you have to take all that into account, and Oregon has dominated. I mean, it feels like yesterday was the Marcus Mariota era there. Just crazy to think about. But they have dominated, and so we have to see how that does. And then we go back to USC and conference-only play. Oregon has lost a few of their games. USC has already lost its game against Notre Dame. But still, a road win against the Ducks is daunting because they will go up to Oregon and play them in Eugene. And that's daunting. That stadium at night is not an easy task by any means, especially for a new starting quarterback on USC versus the Ducks. Defense going to be very tough. And USC also lost JT Daniels to the transfer portal. He is now at the University of Georgia, or he is projected to start. And Clay Helton, beloved Clay Helton, is on the hot seat. I feel like he's been on the hot seat every single year, I want to say, since he started the head coaching job. But besides the point, Helton is on the hot seat. And yes, so let's look at USC and some of their pros. They have a plethora of talent. I mean, that goes without saying. Playing at USC is a prestigious honor. Decent recruiting class, 10th in the nation. Pretty good. Good schedule. But their big game against Alabama was canceled again. Their Notre Dame game, their Alabama game. These are big games they were relying on to showcase their strength. They've been canceled. I mean, that sucks for them. So can they get over the hump? I mean, can they do it? There's a chance. There is definitely a chance that they can get over the hump. And it just depends. And I want to say thank you to CBS Sports for the statistics and some of the stats I used. So now on to the Big 12. I feel like we're flying through these today, people. For the Big 12, it's projected that I see University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, another school I applied to. My tennis coach played tennis at Oklahoma, so I have a little bit of an affinity for them. The dark horse, though, Baylor University, BU. I think that's their acronyms. Don't quote me on that. Similar to Oregon, Oklahoma has dominated the Big 12 discussion. But, Baylor had a breakout season last year. I mean, breakout season. As you will see, though, a lot of their breakouts was not lucky, obviously, because they do have talent there, but it was not blowouts in how many wins they had. Out of the 8 conference games Baylor had last year, 4 came within 1-score wins. You could say they got lucky, whatever. You could say that they're good against the clock, whatever you say. Matt Rule has a lot of luck to him. However, it honestly just feels weird writing this because Oklahoma is so dominant with Spencer Rattler, Lincoln Riley, that offense, the air raid system. I mean, not air raid. I'm so sorry. That's at Washington State. With that system there and the offensive powerhouse they have, Baylor will contend. Baylor is going to contend. This is the darkest of dark horses, in my humble opinion. Ooh, I'm sorry, guys. Now, let's get on into the one and only, the beloved SEC, the Southeastern Conference. I'm sorry, you guys. My computer glitched there for a second, and my microphone went off. Besides the point. The Southeastern Conference. We have Alabama. You all know Alabama. I almost went to the University of Alabama. I still root for them. Not gonna lie. Try not to be biased, but I do root for them. Mostly because we have a lot of family friends that go there. But we have the University of Alabama as the projected. But the wild card here. And again, is this much of a wild card? Dark horse. Say with it what you will. Not necessarily. I think that this team I'm going to tell you is definitely in contention. I mean, if you listen to the podcast last week, people, you know I had them in my top 4 projections, in my top 4 for the college football playoffs. Without further ado, you're probably all like, oh my gosh, get to the point, Danielle. And I'm going to get there. The SEC was probably the hardest to pick out for a wild card just because I feel like there are so many teams that could be wild card. You have Auburn. You have... Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there. But there are just multiple teams in the Southeastern Conference that could be a wild card. Auburn was definitely up for consideration, but ultimately I went with the University of Georgia. The Bulldogs. Ugga, the little bulldog, sneak peek into my Mascots listings. Yeah, we have the Bulldogs. And let's get to it. JT Daniels for Georgia. He's a new quarterback. Everyone is very excited about him. I mean, the Raves are in. He's a transfer portal. We'll have to see. But Nick Saban revenge. All you need to know. I talked about this last week, but Nick Saban and the Alabama football program are going to be out for revenge. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They are probably still angry about it, probably still salty. They're going to want to prove that they're the best team, that their dynasty is not over, that they are still contenders to be the best team in college football. When you talk about Clemson and Ohio State as well, they want to be in that conversation. And they're most likely going to play each other in the title game for the SEC conference title. So these are the 2 teams we can project to see there. Big games against Auburn for Alabama, and the Iron Bowl is always a tough one for them. But wild card is definitely Georgia. I can see both of them making it in the playoffs. It comes down to who will win the conference, though. Projected. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Now, let's get on to the ACC. We have projected teams. Clemson. Everyone knows Clemson. The good old Clemson Wildcat. Hold on, what is Clemson mascot? Clemson Tigers. That's embarrassing. Wow. The Clemson Tigers, everybody. We all know. I literally rave about them all the time on this podcast. Yeah. Who is the wild card, you might ask? Louisville. I am just going to read this snippet from 247 Sports because it kind of encapsulates everything I feel about Louisville's chances to upset Clemson. Same with Oklahoma. It feels weird because Clemson has dominated so recently. They have a projected number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence and potential Heisman winner. They have Dabo Swinney. I mean, it feels weird. So thank you to 247 Sports for this excellent excerpt that I will be reading for you guys. Scott Satterfield has our attention after an incredible first season with Louisville. But what does he have in store for an encore? Pass protection must improve to contend for the Atlantic title, but the running game should continue to carry the load with Javane Hawkins returning. Tutu Atwell leads a group of great receivers, but the question along the offensive line and defense will hold back the Cardinals from hitting a double-digit win total. The defense was the 6th worst among Power 5 teams last year, 33.4 points per game. Improvement is expected, but getting to that championship level, 21 points or less, is going to take a minor miracle. What does that mean, guys? I mean, you kind of heard it there first. Like, I'm shrugging my shoulders like, well, what do you think? I mean, do you think they have a chance? Do you think they don't? I have Clemson in my top 4, as you all know, because you listen to Monday's podcast, I'm sure. But, yes. As I digress. Louisville, could they do it? They could. Never say never in college football. Injuries happen, weather, COVID-19. How will that affect these rankings? We don't know. But all I'm saying is that the odds of it happening are kind of slim. I don't want to say it's nothing, because nothing is impossible. It's like that Kevin Garnett meme, like, anything is possible. You know what I'm talking about, people? If you're a basketball fan, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But, anyways. Yes. So, Clemson, I'm sorry, I have Clemson, the dark horse here. This is a dark horse. This is like, you're in the woods at night and it's like Harry Potter land and you see like a mysterious head pop out. That's how dark of a horse it is that Louisville could win. So what do you think? Let's go back over it again really quickly for you guys. Ohio State for the Big Ten is predicted to win. My dark horse there is Wisconsin. And this is probably the least dark horse of the darkiest horses. Is that the word, darkiest horses? Just because they have already been projected to win multiple times. Not projected to win. They are projected to be in the playoffs and contend for the title already. Predicted for the Pac-12, we have the Oregon Ducks. But the wild card here is the University of Southern California, the USC Trojans. Can they do it? I mean, nothing is impossible. I definitely think that with the infrastructure there and the talent they have on the team, it could definitely happen. Next up, we have Oklahoma for the Big 12. They're projected. And Baylor as a dark horse. Baylor would have to get lucky. Let's just put that out there. Oh, out in the front. Baylor would have to get lucky to overtake Oklahoma. It could happen. Nothing is impossible. I mean, how many times can I say that? Nothing is impossible. But Oklahoma has just dominated the Big 12 discussion. Baylor did have a breakout season last year. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue that breakout or if their luck runs out. For the SEC, we have Alabama, with our wild card being the Georgia Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. Is that they're saying? I actually really wanted to go to Georgia for a while. You'll notice a trend here. Big football schools I wanted to go to. But I got rejected. Besides the point. Alabama projected. My wild card, though, is Georgia. How do you feel about that? I mean, again, is this that much of a wild card? No, because Georgia has the potential to upset them. They upset them last year. They're predicted to play each other in the title game for the SEC. And yeah, I think that when it comes to wild cards, that, or dark horses, that is not as much of a dark horse as the last one I'm going to mention, which is Clemson, Louisville. This is like the darkest of dark horses. All respect to Louisville, this is a dark horse. But it could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't. It definitely could happen. So what do you think, guys? Do you think I'm wrong here? Am I forgetting a team? Does Utah have a chance to upset USC and overtake that wild card spot? South Carolina for the South? I mean, let me know. Let us know on our social media. I would love to hear from you guys about what you think about my rankings, because there's definitely going to be some controversy in there. I'm not going to lie. There is going to be controversy in these rankings. But yes. Coming up, everybody, we will have a very exciting segment where we will look at top 10 mascots in college football. That's right. Did I put your team on there? Did I leave your team off? We will see. We will find out. Stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We are back. I know you all enjoyed a break from my voice. I enjoyed a break from my voice too. Anyways, let's get into our top 10 segment for today. Last episode, I did concession stand foods, and you guys loved that. You ate it up. Got so many opinions. My boyfriend and I definitely had a tiffle about, tiffle, is that a word? We definitely had our own thoughts about concession stands, and everyone in my life did. I got so many comments back from people being like, I don't agree with you about so many of that things. So I figured, let's do another controversial top 10 list. I mean, a top 10 list is never not going to be controversial. That is a fact. So, starting at number 10. I also want to say I'm not going to include my beloved Chip from Boulder on here. If you guys don't know who Chip is, we have two mascots. We have Ralphie and Chip. Ralphie might make an appearance on this list. Not going to spoil anything, but keep that in your mind. Not going to make any biases towards Chip here. I love Chip, but yeah, I can't be biased on here. Kicking things off, at number 10, we have Ralphie. My beloved Ralphie, the University of Colorado Boulder. If you don't know the tradition of Ralphie, let me give it to you guys. Ralphie is a girl. She's a buffalo that we run at the beginning of the game and at halftime. And let me tell you, being a Ralphie runner is a pride and joy. I remember when I was a senior in high school and I had committed to Boulder, this kid I went to high school with, who shall remain anonymous, we had this thing called advisory together, which is like just a thing my school did. And we were in the same advisory. And one day he was talking about going to Boulder. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just committed there too, like SCO buffs. And he was like, I'm going to audition me a Ralphie runner. And it's a varsity D1 sport, you guys. Like being a Ralphie runner is intense. No one knows where to keep Ralphie. No one's allowed to know. Only the Ralphie runners and handlers know. Not anyone on the team knows. You sign a contract. It is a very big deal. If you have not seen Ralphie run, look up a video. I adore Ralphie. It's a real life buffalo. It's so cool. I remember I didn't know who Ralphie was before I came to the school, which is kind of bad. I didn't really do my research when applying. And I remember like student orientation the first night they had Ralphie run, and it was so cool. Ralphie is just the best. She is unlike any other tradition. I think it's just really interesting and cool. And I am putting her at number 10. I would put her number 1 in my heart if I could. but I cannot because that is biased, and we're not a biased podcast, as you can tell. Tradition unlike any other, yeah. Number 9. Does anyone also, sorry, I'll get into this and then I'll say my anecdote. We have Smokey from the University of Tennessee. And I did not write down what kind of dog this was. He is a blue tick conhound. Oh, he's so cute, you guys. I'm looking at a little picture from him. Oh. Sorry, I love dogs so much, which is a common trend on this list. Does anyone remember from The Blind Side, that movie with Sandra Bullock, where basically the premise of the movie didn't know is she takes in this guy from the streets, a homeless kid, and he ends up going to playing professional football, but he's deciding which college he wants to go to, and she's like, I will not wear that god-awful orange. And I remember when I was applying to college, my mom said the exact same thing. She was like, you can go to Tennessee, but I will not wear that god-awful orange. I didn't end up applying to Tennessee, but go Vols. Who doesn't love a cute dog? I mean, I do too. I love cute dogs. Just look up a picture of him. That's my thing. Every mascot I say, I need you to look up a picture of him and let me know what you think of them. Yeah, he's a cute little cornhound dog. Ugh, my heart. How many years have they had this on? Oh, this has been a 66-year tradition, it looks like, which is pretty freaking cool, I gotta say. Freaking cool. Don't worry, guys. We don't have to curse. He was selected in 1953 during a contest to select a live mascot for the school. So, that's pretty cool, it looks like. This was, I guess, now it's 68 years, because this was from 2018, this article. But yeah, Smokey, the blue tick conhound, is number 9 on my list. He's also in the Hall of Fame, it looks like. But yeah. Number 8. We have, what do you guys think also? I would love to hear like your predictions on like who's on this list, because definitely not going to be people you might predict. Number 8, we have Otto the Orange from Syracuse. Do you know who Otto the Orange is? I remember I was so confused. I was like, oh my gosh, a school has an orange as a mascot? Like, how weird is that? It's not that weird, actually. It's pretty common, but we have Otto the Orange. Cutest little thing. I'm looking up pictures of them as I go, by the way, so we can get the live reactions. I've already done my research on this, obviously. He's a cute little orange. He's in the ACC, and he was first seen in 1980, which is pretty cool. Cute little tradition. I think it's funny when a school has not animal as a mascot. I think it's funny. Number 7 on this list, you guys. We have Cocky the Gamecock from South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, USC. I think it's funny also when people just talk about USC. If you're from the South or the Northeast, it's University of South Carolina, and if you're from the West Coast, it's University of Southern California. I think it's so funny. One of my best friends from school is from Boston, and we were having this full debate, and I was like, University of Southern California? Like, no, South Carolina, and we got in this huge argument about it, but let's read a little Wikipedia bio about Cocky here. Cocky is a costume mascot from the University of South Carolina athletic teams. He represents a cartoon version of the Gamecock. Although the Gamecock has been the official symbol of the University of South Carolina since 1902, there was no official mascot until 1972. Yes, Cocky. I picked him for this list at number 7 just because I think it's so cute and funny. A little gamecock. I think his outfit he wears is adorable, you guys. He has so much energy every time he's on the field. I'm looking at a video of him doing a little dance right now, and it's very entertaining, I have to say. So at number 7, we have good old Cocky the Gamecock. Let's continue. At number 6, who do we have? None other than the University of Texas at Austin. Is that how you say it? Austin, Texas. Not Austin, Texas. UT. Bevo. Real life bullhorn. Guys, that's so cool. That's so cool. Let's do a little Google search on Bevo for you guys. Bevo is the live mascot of the athletic program at the University of Texas at Austin. He is a Texas Longhorn steer with burnt orange and white coloring, from which the school has derived its color scheme. The profile of the longhorn head and horns gives rise to the school's hand signal and saying "hook 'em horns." That's cool. I didn't know that the colors for it are what gave this. I mean, that the colors for the mascot gave the school colors. It's not a bullhorn. It is a longhorn steer. I guess that's why they're longhorns. Wow. Everything is making so much sense now that you research this. He is a little twitter. called @TexasMascot. I always think it's funny when the mascots have a Twitter. He is named Bevo because it was named after an amber-colored, non-alcoholic beverage called Bevo. And the other half is that he added an O to the plural form of beef, Bev. Okay, that makes sense. The current Bevo is 3 years old, it looks like. This is from 2018. No, he is 6 years old now. I wonder how long they can live. I mean, do you guys remember that video of, I think it was Uga from UGA and Bevo got in this huge tussle or like fight on the sidelines of a UGA Texas game, and it was all over social media? Because I remember that. That was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. We got Uga. We got Bevo. Bevo's cool. One of my good friends goes to UT Austin, and she's always said that Bevo is a tradition unlike any other, and I would have to agree. I just want to also say that I hope these animals are treated well. I don't condone animal cruelty of any sort. I know Ralphie is treated exceptionally well. She's treated like the queen she is. Anyways, number 5. We're getting to the top 5, you guys. We're going through this rapid fire today. We have Mike the Tiger from Louisiana State University, LSU. Go Tigers. I think it's like go like French. Pretty sure like G-A-X, G-E-A-U-X. I always used to say like Gex Tigers or whatever. I don't think that's how you say it, but yeah. We have Mike the Tiger, a real life tiger. That's pretty cool. I hope the tiger is treated well. Let's look this up. Tiger conditions at LSU. Oh, it lives on the campus. Oh gosh, wow, that's interesting. Facts about Mike. LSU, Mike the Tiger. He's a personal veterinarian. That's nice. 20 pounds he eats 20 pounds daily, so he eats 40 pounds of food a week. Oh my gosh. The average expectancy of these tigers is 14 to 18 years. Oh, dang. One of them lived 20 years. He has an Instagram and a Facebook, it looks like. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so Mike the Tiger. We love Mike the Tiger, it looks like. Where did my list go, everybody? I lost it. Oh, there we go. So Mike the Tiger comes in at number 5. I've heard LSU games are pretty cool to go to because of him, so I gotta take their word. At number 4, we have another dog on this list. I just love dogs so much, if you guys cannot tell. We have Uga, the University of Georgia Bulldog. So cute. I want an Uga so badly. Should I tell my parents I want to get Uga? I want an Uga. His little dollhouse he sits in is so cute. Everything about him. He's so cute, you guys. Sorry. If you're not a dog person, that was a really annoying little spiel for you to listen to there. But I love Uga. I want an Uga in my life. Uga is so cute. Uga is so perfect. Uga is literally everything I could imagine in a dog. So yeah, Uga comes in at number 4. Let's read some facts about Uga. Come on, Uga. Bulldog. Okay. Oh, he's so cute, you guys. I'm obsessed with him, you guys. I want Uga so badly. History of UGA, the mascot. So he's been around for over 100 years. The line of purebred English bulldogs, which epitomizes everything Georgia, has been owned by Frank W. Sony Seller family of Savannah, Georgia since Uga 1. Okay, so it's been around since 1956. The live bulldog came out. He's defined by a spiked collar, a symbol of position which he holds. They awarded a varsity letter. Guys, I want Uga. Oh, I'm looking at him right now and I'm just obsessed with him. I wonder how long each of these mascots stay in like they are so Uga X Q. So they have little names, you guys. I'm like reading these out loud to you. Guys. I'm obsessed. Fitbit, stop telling me I need to walk. I know I need to walk. I'm almost on my podcast and I will walk. Sorry, you guys. My Fitbit is being very irritating to me. Yeah, Suvaga. I literally have in my notes, dog, all caps. Number 3. Number 3 is a good one. Number 3 holds a little place in my heart. I adore number 3. I have grown up rooting for number 3. That is the Stanford Cardinal, the tree, the cardinal. My mom always used to joke that at least your mascot is not a color cardinal. I think it's funny that it is a tree. It's a color too. I guess that means she has 2 mascots. I guess that's how it could work. Yes, the tree. We love the tree in this family. My mom always talks about this time that she was a student at lovely Stanford University. Go Cardinal, as she always says. Where it was a big game against Stanford and Cal, and the band started running on the field while the game was still going on. And therefore, she holds a big place in her heart for the Cardinal. The tree is so funny. I have so many pictures growing up with the tree. Maybe I'll attach one on social media for you all to see. But yeah, I picked the Cardinal because, a lot of tradition in this life, a lot of ground it's covered, I guess you could say. Let's look up some facts about the Cardinal. Stanford tree, it's so funny. I wonder who decorates it. I would love to be. Do you ever think about who the mascot is? I would love to be the tree. It does not, actually, the university does not have an official mascot. I didn't know that. That's interesting. He's a member of the Stanford band. The Stanford band is legendary, in my humble opinion. Gosh, my mom went to Stanford. She's a smart cookie, now that I'm sitting here thinking about that. Oh gosh, so it looks like every single year they redecorate the Stanford Cardinal tree. Oh, it's so funny. I would love to be the tree. Just imagine what you get to see from being a mascot in one of the most legendary college football uniforms of all time. I think that's so cool. I think that's so funny. Who knows? Maybe this is just me projecting a hope of mine onto this podcast. But yeah, number 3, we have the Stanford Cardinal tree. It's funny to see in person. All-time tradition. Yeah, I have a petition where my mom should be the tree. I say my mom, who graduated long ago, should be the tree. Number 2, you guys. Number 2, I have to admit, I was not super familiar with prior to making this top 10 list. It was not something that crossed my mind very often. But I just gotta say, you guys, number 2 might hold a special place in my heart. Above Ralphie. Not above Ralphie. No. Just, it's really important to college football. I feel like more people should know about it. That is Big Red from Western Kentucky University. The furry, lovable, this is a excerpt from SB Nation that was taken from their official website. The huge, furry, lovable creature was originally designed and built by Western Kentucky University student Ralph Carey. He's graduated in 1980 of Cincinnati and made his debut during the Hilltoppers' 1979-80 basketball season. Big Red has become a big hit with fans of all ages and throughout the state and the nation. Big Red's signature dance moves are the belly slide and belly shake. I wish this was a video platform sometimes because I would just imitate his belly moves. I think they're so funny to me, you guys. I think we all wish we had a Big Red in our life, don't we? But it is a big, I don't even know how to describe this. It's not, it cannot talk, I guess. How would you guys describe Big Red from Western Kentucky? It's a big red thing. It is a big, I don't even know how you would describe it. It's just really funny to me. It's iconic. I feel like it's one of the only mascots that came around kind of later in life, but it just has so much history to it. It's so funny to look at. It's so hilarious. Watching Western Kentucky games with that on the sideline is amazing. I mean, the reason that many people would watch a Western Kentucky football game. But that's number 2 on my list. And let's do a little recap before we get to number 1. Number 10, we have Ralphie. Like I said, would have put her number 1 if I could, but I could not, very sadly. It's a tradition unlike any other. Number 9, we have the Coonhound, Smokey from the University of Tennessee. I will not wear that god-awful orange. I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Number 8, Otto the Orange from the University of Syracuse. Syracuse University. It's just funny. It's cute. Oranges are one of the best fruits in the game, in my opinion. So, we love a good orange. Number 7, we have Cocky the Gamecock. Just funny. I don't know. It's original. What even is a gamecock, you guys? Let's look this up. It's a rooster that is bred for fighting. Okay, I did not know this. I thought a gamecock was just like a bull or something. No, it's a bird meant for fighting. Cool. Number 6, we have Bevo, the Longhorn from the University of Texas at Austin, UT. Number 5, we have Mike the Tiger from LSU. I think that's pretty cool as long as there is no animal cruelty involved. Obviously, real life tiger, that's pretty freaking cool, I guess. Number 4, we have Uga from Georgia. It's a dog, you guys. It's a cute little bulldog, and it stands on the sidelines with his jersey, and he walks around, and it's just so cute. Number 3, we have the Cardinal from Stanford. Just a funny tradition, unlike any other. And lastly, we have number 2, Big Red from Western Kentucky. No explanation needed. And number 1, you guys, what do you think number 1 going to be? Pause this right now. What do you think number 1's going to be? I think it's going to be Puddles, the Oregon Duck. That is right. Puddles, the Oregon Duck, is number 1 on my list. It's a cute duck. And I was thinking about this. Upon doing a lot of self-reflection, I realized maybe the reason I put Puddles on this list is because I had an affinity for Donald Duck growing up. I just loved Donald Duck. He was always my favorite animal in all of Mickey Mouse Land. So I put Puddles on this list because Puddles is a very important animal to me. It's an important mascot, and it's a really cute mascot. So there you have it, guys. That is my number 1 list. What did you think? Do you think I was disrespectful to any? Let me know. Yeah, I would love to hear your comments. But all right, you guys, that does it for today's show. What did you guys think? Let's kind of give a brief recap of what I touched upon in this lovely episode I did from my childhood bedroom, which is where I'll be for literally the rest of my life, it feels like. But yeah, I don't know why I just sang like that, but let's get into it. So we went over coronavirus in the world of college football and this pandemic we are living through, the bubble prospect for college football. What do you guys think of that? I personally think it could work. There are so many obstacles we'd have to go through that, again, it doesn't even feel real that we have to literally go through these obstacles. It's just crazy to me. But yeah, we touched on that. We went over what teams would host the bubble for each conference, if all conferences did conference only play, which I believe is a very realistic possibility for the last 3 conferences who have not declared their conferences yet. And then for the big, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought there. 6 football games a week. How do we feel about that? Testing guidelines. Do we think that's okay? Do we think that's appropriate? What do we think there? And then for the end of the first segment, we touched upon, games being canceled, spring football again. What would happen with all of that? And cases rises. We all have to take into account the fact that if cases rises, who knows where our country will be. Then, in the second segment, we went over some of my Heisman contenders. Annoying noises right there. So we went over Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and their cases for the Heisman. What do you guys think? I think I made my case pretty well for both of them. I definitely do believe Trevor Lawrence has the advantage there, but let me know what you guys think. And then we will get into the final 3 on next week's episode. And then we went over my dark horse teams. What are dark horse teams, you might ask? Well, pretty self-explanatory. Dark horse teams. We had Ohio State and Wisconsin for the Big Ten as the 2 teams. We had Oregon and USC. USC was a wildcard team, I should say, in case you forgot. Oklahoma, and then dark horse being Baylor. Alabama, wildcard being Georgia. Clemson, wildcard being Louisville. So yes. And then finally, my mascots. My mascot rankings. What do you guys think? There were so many honorable mentions I could have put in there. I mean, where do we even begin with the honorable mentions? We have the Crimson Tide. Is that even a mascot? I feel like it's legendary. The Tigers, the Clemson Tigers. I feel like I just talked about Clemson so much on this podcast. I don't think I could even put it in. Who else do we have for some honorable mentions? Let me know. Who am I forgetting on my list here, people? Yes. We went over that. And yeah, I want everyone to stay safe. Please remember that social distancing, I feel like it's like one word now, still very important. We are still living in this pandemic. We all want college football to come back so badly. So please do your part. Wear your masks. Wearing a mask is not political. I don't mean to offend anyone with that statement, but wear your mask. Be safe. Be responsible. Also, check in on your family members and your friends. Recognize what is going on with the world and everything. It is a tough time for people. I have been a lot more anxious recently. I know a lot of my friends have been a lot more anxious recently. And just check in on your friends. See how we're all doing. It's a really tough time. Do you guys have any fun plans this weekend? I guess just going out on Thursday. What are your plans for this weekend? Do I have plans? I'm going kayaking this weekend. That'll be fun. Paintballing on Saturday. Fun stuff there. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for listening in to, this is my second episode. I'm pretty new to the solo podcasting. I have a podcast of my own, but pretty new to this, so I'm still getting used to it. Filling blank time, I guess. Just really nervous. So I'm sorry if I seem nervous at all. I'm just anxious. Not anxious. I'm excited to be doing this. It's something I've wanted to do for such a long time, and I'm so grateful to GSMC for giving me this opportunity. And I want to thank you guys for your continued support and for listening and for tuning into my shows. Yeah, I never thought I'd have a college football show. So I am grateful. I'm reflecting a lot, and I'm just grateful. But yes. Am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything, you guys. Tell us on our social medias what you thought of this week's episode. Who did I miss on my rankings? Who did I mess up? Who did I leave out? Let me know, because I would love to hear. I'm very curious. I did not wish to leave anyone out or exclude anyone. Oops, a thumbnail just fell on my computer. That's not good. Not like a thumbnail for like a YouTube, like an actual thumbnail. That was scary. Anyways, you guys, I hope you all have an amazing day, an amazing weekend. Stay safe, healthy, stay healthy. And thank you for listening to the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would also like to ask you that you please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that would be amazing. So much great content is going on there, you guys. So much exciting things. Social media, follow us on there. Great content, great people working on our content. So yes. And with that, I just want to say that I hope you guys all have a great night, a great healthy week. Stay safe, healthy. Watch a good movie. Eat some good snacks. Enjoy time with your family and your loved ones in a safe, healthy manner. And I will talk to you guys all on Monday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From football to basketball, baseball to MMA, and even soccer. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast.